Well, my friends, we are officially in June, which means a Nintendo Direct should be right around the corner, as Nintendo announced one back in May for June. So today, I wanted to sit down and go over some predictions for this showcase, what I want to see, what I expect to see, and what I really, really hope to see, but probably won't happen. Let's get into it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. It's a little early. I know they haven't actually announced the date for this Nintendo Direct, but I figured it'd be fun to go ahead and get a video out talking about what I want to see in this Nintendo Direct and what I expect to see in this showcase. So, mostly focusing on first party here. Third parties are always a little bit harder to predict, though I do have some things listed here. But I guess we can just go ahead and get right into it, no point in wasting time. So I'm expecting this Nintendo Direct to be pretty good, actually, overall, I would say. I've said this since February, back when we thought we were getting a full Direct in February, but I expected that Nintendo Direct to kind of just roadmap the remainder of the big Switch games, even up to maybe a little bit into 2025, like early 2025. I'm going to stick to that. I think that this Direct will likely be the final major Direct for Switch 1 before the Switch 2 is announced, but I guess it is possible we get another one in September for Switch 1, and then Switch 2 gets announced a little bit later, but I'm expecting this to be the final major Switch Direct, so I think they will announce a lot of first-party games here into 2025 even, just to give us a little bit of an extended roadmap for Switch 1 owners. Now, I do still think that 2024 will be relatively light. I'm expecting 4 games to be announced for this year from Nintendo, maybe 5 if you want to get like a smaller game in there or something. And then from there, I do think we'll get a couple games announced for 2025, although those are more in like the maybe category, less confident, but I would like to see them happen. So let's go over the surefire bets, right? I've done videos on almost all of these, so if you've been watching the channel, you know I'm expecting these to be announced here. The first thing, and this is what I'm most confident on, is a new Warriors game. Nintendo Warriors games do pretty well. We haven't gotten one since 2022, and in fact, Omega Force has been very absent in recent times. Now, they did just announce the Dynasty Warriors Origins game at the PlayStation State of Play last week. However, that's not coming out until 2025, which it's already the biggest gap we've ever had for a Warriors game from Omega Force. That's even further. 2025, that's crazy. So I do think that announcement does not hurt the possibility of a new Warriors game this year on Switch. Now, what will that be? I would love if it was a Xenoblade Warriors game. I want more Xenoblade in my life. It's only been like a year and a half since we got Future Redeemed, but I would love a Xenoblade Warriors game. I think likelier is another Hyrule Warriors game. Age of Calamity is the best-selling Warriors game overall across all Warriors franchises, so I think that makes the most sense. A new Hyrule Warriors game that will likely take place or be based around Tears of the Kingdom. I don't personally want that. This one is not a hope. I love Warriors games, but Age of Calamity is probably my least favorite, at least of the Nintendo crossovers. I would much prefer a Xenoblade Warriors, because if we got a Xenoblade Warriors, my prediction would actually change a little bit here, because I think no matter what, we get something Zelda this year. And I don't want that one thing to be Hyrule Warriors, personally, because if we got, let's say, Xenoblade Warriors, maybe that would open up the idea of a new 2D Zelda game, or even a remake of a 2D Zelda game from Grezzo, because we still don't know what they're doing, whether or not that's Luigi's Mansion 2 or not. But I'm going to stick with Hyrule Warriors. It's the best-selling sub-franchise for the series, and it's already been, 4 years now since Age of Calamity came out, so I feel like the time is actually right for an Imprisoning War Hyrule Warriors game. Next up, might as well talk about the other big gun for this Nintendo Direct, Metroid. It has to happen. If we don't see Metroid in this Nintendo Direct, it is safe to assume that is a Switch 2 game at this point. But I think we will. I do think Metroid Prime 4 will release this year. Maybe it gets a patch later down the line that gives it, some more 4K support and all that stuff. Makes it look a little bit nicer for the Switch 2 when that comes out. But I do think Metroid Prime 4 will release this year, or maybe at the very latest early next year. But I do think we'll see it in this Nintendo Direct. I think this would be a safe bet for the closer of this showcase, just because it's so hyped up for so many years. Even if Metroid's not that popular in Japan, I think with the sales success of Dread, it's earned itself a closing spot in a showcase at this point. And if it isn't Prime 4, I did a video back, I think on Friday, talking about the likelihood of a Metroid game showing up at all. I think if it's not Prime 4, we will get something else. I think no matter what, there's a Metroid game in this showcase. Whether that's Prime 4, whether that's Samus Returns HD, or a remake of Fusion, or something else entirely, I think we will see a premium $60 Metroid game announced or shown in this Nintendo Direct for release this year. Because if you look at Mercury Steam's development timeline here, they're also pretty due to release something. I mean, it's been almost 3 years since Metroid Dread came out. If they've got put on a smaller project to kind of close out the Switch's library, you could imagine they would get that out within 3 years after Dread, and then, also start working on Metroid 6 for the next console. So I think a new Metroid game, no matter what, will be here. It just depends on what that actually looks like. Now, next up is one that's been rumored for a very long time. I believe Emily Rogers first reported it back in like 2021, so it's been years at this point, but it's a persistent rumor, and it is one I believe, just based on the codenames for the Fire Emblem series, and that is Fire Emblem 4 Remake, or Fire Emblem 4 Genealogy of the Holy War. Now, if you aren't caught up on this whole thing, basically internally, Fire Emblem games have these codenames, and they're just numbered. So like Iron, I believe 17 is Fire Emblem 3 Houses, but Iron 19 is Fire Emblem Engage, meaning there is a missing Fire Emblem game that we have not seen. I know some people like to say or try to say that it was Three Hopes, the Warriors game. That is not the case. That game has a different code name, meaning it is likely that Fire Emblem 4 Remake not only is done and they've just been sitting on it, but it's likely that it started development before Engage, or at least around the same time as Engage, and that game came out over a year ago. So based on what we know, it seems likely that there is a Fire Emblem remake that is just done, or just, being polished up at this point, and they're just waiting to release it. Which does make me question if they'll release it now, or save it for later. If they have something else smaller this year, maybe like a new Kirby game, which we'll talk about, maybe you save Fire Emblem for next year, because we did just get Engaged last year. Engaged kind of underperformed, at least compared to Three Houses. Fire Emblem 4 Remake might be something they want to save as a cross-gen game or something along those lines. I'm not too sure how well it would do as a bigger holiday game. I would expect this to release in like August or September, but still that's around, you're getting into holiday season at that point. We haven't really seen a Fire Emblem game outside of Warriors release in like October, November before, I don't believe. Most of the mainline ones since Awakening have released in the spring. So it'd be interesting to see how it does stacked up against like Prime 4 and Hyrule Warriors or something. I'm less confident in this one. I do think it's one of those things where it's like, we got to see it eventually, but I could see them holding on to it for a little bit longer. But I would be very excited to see this. I've never played Fire Emblem 4, so I hope this happens, because I think for a lot of people, I mean, this is basically a new game, right? Most Fire Emblem fans have not played Genealogy of the Holy War. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say. And then finally, this one's not anywhere near as exciting, but I think is almost certainly a lock here, and I've been saying this for, 2 years. Mario Party. I think Mario Party absolutely has to show up at this event. We got to get that one Mario game announced in a Nintendo Direct. This will be our Mario game for this showcase in particular, and I think this will release in October. That is when we've seen Mario Party release in previous years. Recently, we saw Midori give out like a little code name. I think it was Buffet or Banquet for a Mario Party game, which has a lot more people speculating Mario Party's coming than there was before. You don't really need that code name to know a Mario Party game's in development, and you don't really need to know the code name to figure out that one should be releasing this year. If you look at the Mario Party release lineup or release kind of schedule, we get one every 3 years. We get a mainline console Mario Party every 3 years, and that has been true since 2012. It'd be very weird for them to break that now, so I wholeheartedly expect a Mario Party game to release this October. It's the perfect, I don't want to say filler game, because these games sell better than most other games from Nintendo, but in terms of excitement, Mario Party is definitely a filler title. This is just them meeting their sales quota for the year, if that makes sense. I'd be very excited for it. I think Indie Cube has done a fantastic job with Mario Party Superstars as well as Super Mario Party. I'd be curious to see what they end up doing here. Will it be more of a compilation of past boards and minigames again? Maybe they focus on the GameCube era this time, or would it be an entirely new thing? That remains to be seen. But yeah, I definitely think out of the 4 games we've talked about so far, I think Mario Party is the safest lock for this Nintendo Direct. All right, now I do have a list of maybes for first-party franchises, but with those 4 out of the way, my 4 pretty confident predictions, I do want to talk a little bit about third party, just a few things here. We've seen a lot of rumors about the Dragon Quest HD 2D trilogy happening now. So originally it was announced as Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. It seems as though that has been upgraded to being the entire trilogy. They did that little teaser on Dragon Quest Day a few weeks ago, and as soon as I saw that teaser, I was like, oh, this is gonna get shown in the Nintendo Direct, and we'll probably get a release date for it. So that's what I'm expecting. The moment I saw that teaser, I was like, oh yeah, we're seeing this soon. So I would expect this to show up in a pretty big way for Nintendo. I mean, Dragon Quest usually has a pretty big presence in Nintendo Directs when it does have a game being announced. Last year, we saw Dragon Quest Monsters take up a few minutes of the June Direct. The year before that, I think it was Dragon Quest Treasures. It makes sense. June Direct this year, we're getting the Dragon Quest Urgic Trilogy HD, and I'd imagine this will release this year, maybe early next. Maybe that's like a February kind of game. But I would hope this releases sooner, like maybe even September. And although it's not exclusive, I'm very excited for that. Another third-party thing that I think we might finally see the damn break on is Yakuza. Sega's been getting smarter, I feel like. You know, we're finally starting to see them treat certain franchises with the multi-platform respect that they deserve, Persona being one of them. Of course, that is Atlus, but Sega, of course, owns Atlus. I think Yakuza is a series we should finally start seeing come over to Nintendo platforms. I'm not sure how they would do this and like in what, form. Would they release them all individually? Would they do some sort of collection of 1 through 6, I guess? I'm not really sure. Honestly, if they really wanted to, I believe they could probably get the newer games on Switch just because, they're turn-based, it's a little bit more simple. Just really downgrade the graphics. Yeah, it's going to look a lot worse, but I think they could probably get all of those on Switch if they wanted to. It's just a matter of whether or not they want to put in that elbow grease at this point. So I think the safer bet would be that they just port the original games. So that'd be Kiwami 1, 2, and let's say the Yakuza, I think it's like the Origins collection, that's 3 through 5. I think those are the safer bets, and then maybe later on Switch 2, you get some of the newer games. I think Kiwami 2 might be on the Dragon Engine, so there might be some issues with that. But I think Yakuza, it's time. Come on. You want Yakuza to be a big deal worldwide, and it's getting there. Yakuza is definitely more popular now than it's ever been. Or sorry, Like a Dragon. But I think now's the time you finally bring those games to Switch. And then also for a third party, I have to talk about Level 5. So I feel like not many people on YouTube really care about Level 5, but I'm always there covering them when they do something. If you forgot, they had announced a showcase for April last year. Last year, after their November showcase, they said, hey, we're going to do another event in April, and they teased a new Yokai Watch game announcement. But as we got about halfway through April, they actually canceled that event. There could be several reasons for this. Maybe the games aren't ready. Maybe the games were being saved for Switch 2. If it's being saved for Switch 2, if, Yokai Watch is a Switch 2 game, maybe we don't see that here. But I would expect something from Level 5 in this Nintendo Direct. We saw Professor Layton and the New World of Steam announced for Switch back in February of 2023, with, I believe, a release slated for 2025. So I think Professor Layton, maybe Deca Police, like, we should definitely be seeing some Level 5 representation in basically every Nintendo Direct. Fantasy Life is coming out later this year. I feel like we've seen enough of that game at this point, but maybe they want to show it off one more time. Level 5 should definitely be in the showcase. All right, now let's get into my maybe pile here, and then we have some really pie-in-the-sky hopes for the end of the video. So this is all first party. I know that's what most people care about. That's what I mostly care about when it comes to discussing Nintendo. So I have, I think, 6 maybes here, 5 maybes here I have listed down for games that I think could show up, but I'm not 100% positive on. So the first thing is a Kirby game. Now, if you look at, once again, I always love looking at, like, release cadence for franchises. If you look at the release cadence for Kirby, we are overdue for a new game to at least be announced, but even released here soon, because the last Kirby game was Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and if we don't get a game announced this year and released this year, you're going to be passing 2 years without a mainline Kirby game, or just a Kirby game period releasing, which is definitely weird for that franchise. Maybe now that Forgotten Land has kind of elevated it to a new height, they don't want to oversaturate the market with like a bunch of small spin-offs or something, but I think it is pretty likely that we see something from Kirby in this Nintendo Direct, and this could be one of those 2025 games that they want to show us. And maybe it's a remake of Epic Yarn again, maybe it's Triple Deluxe or Planet Robobot, something from Kirby, maybe even just a smaller spin-off. Maybe they remake Air Ride, maybe they make a new party game or something from Kirby. I'm not going to say it's likely, but I really think it's about time we see something from Kirby, but if we get a September Direct, maybe you save that for then. Next up, we have Luigi's Mansion 1 HD. I've been talking about this since the moment that they announced Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and my thought on this has kind of changed. I would be very happy if they, just ported it to the eShop like they did for Pikmin 1 and 2 last year, shadow drop it on the eShop. That'd be fantastic. I still think that's possible. You know, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD releasing at the end of the month. I'm expecting this direct like a week before that releases. You could drop Luigi's Mansion 1 HD, and that's enough time for people to play it before 2 comes out. But, and we've been hearing so much about Nintendo's like cross-gen plans, or at least rumors about it, about how they're planning on releasing all of these games after the Switch 2 comes out. I could see them actually saving Luigi's Mansion 1, and maybe even doing a Luigi's Mansion 2 HD scale remaster of the 3DS remake. I know that's a really quick turnaround from Luigi's Mansion 2 HD to 1 HD if we were to get it as a full retail release for, let's say, $50, but if they want to pad out the Switch 1 calendar next year, that would be a very easy game to do. It would sell a lot of copies. I'd be very excited for it personally. Maybe you don't want to waste Luigi's Mansion as an eShop game, because it is such a big franchise that sells so many copies. That's the only reason I'm not confident in them just putting it on the eShop after the Direct, like we saw with Pikmin 1 and 2. I think Nintendo knows they can probably squeeze a little bit more out of that game than just uploading the ROM, basically, and emulating it. So we'll see on Luigi's Mansion 1. I could see it popping up. I could see them doing the eShop release, but I think it's not unlikely that they save that for 2025 as well, and ends up doing a full remaster akin to what they're doing with Dark Moon. Next up, more ports, remasters, all of that. That's what the rest of this list is, basically. Metroid Prime 2 and 3, I would love to see this. If we don't get Luigi's Mansion 1, I certainly think these increase in likelihood. Of course, this depends on what's going on with Metroid Prime 4. Is that releasing this year? Who knows? But I think Prime 2 and 3 are certainly worth talking about, right? I know we talk about them every Nintendo Direct, but they're certainly coming, I imagine, right? At some point, they'll do those 2 games before Prime 4. So those are 2 I think could happen. Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, I will be honest, I'm only mentioning these because I know I'll get comments about it. I've given up hope on these. I think if they were going to release them, they would have. Maybe we get them next year just to pad out the Switch lineup for Switch 1 while Switch 2 is out. But I think it's likelier they just don't do them. Maybe we get Wind Waker HD by itself eventually. I think Twilight Princess, quite frankly, could be just remade into a better game in like 5 or 6 years. So I'm not as confident that we'll get Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD anymore. I would love them. I would love if they finally brought these games to Switch, but I guess I'm just jaded because we've talked about them for so many years. And then my final maybe prediction here is F-Zero 99 DLC with a physical release. We've seen Nintendo do this before. Tetris 99 got a physical release. Cadence of Hyrule, Snipper Clips, like a lot of their digital games end up getting physical releases later on. I could see them doing that with F-Zero 99. If it's a lighter holiday for the Switch, they want more new products on shelves for Christmas. F-Zero 99, fantastic game. Give it like a paid DLC expansion or something with maybe some more offline, kind of story mode stuff to do, or, just something more that beefs up that game, and give it a physical release. Include 12 months of Nintendo Switch Online with it. That would be very exciting. I love that game so much. I would love to see it get a substantial amount of more supports and also have a physical version so that it is preserved into the future. Maybe that's more wishful thinking, but if they are truly having a light year for Switch, I think that would make a lot of sense. All right, and now as we are rounding out the video here, I have 3 hopes. These are my absolute hopes. There's nothing rational about these 3 predictions, but I really, really want to see them, so I'm going to talk about them real quick anyway. First off is Tomodachi Life. This is, of the 3, I think the likeliest, because Tomodachi Life is one of the best-selling 3DS games. Miitopia actually did pretty well on Switch as well. They did that whole new Mii Maker in that game, and then they never used it again with all the options and stuff. Tomodachi Life, I think, would sell very, very well. If they announced it here, I think it would be a 2025 game. If you've been watching my videos for like the past year, I've been very, I was expecting Tomodachi Life. I think I've slowly given up hope, I'll be honest. But I would love to see that finally happen on the Switch, even if it's just a port or a remaster of the 3DS version like we saw with Miitopia. I would take that as well, but I feel like a sequel makes more sense. But Tomodachi Life, please make it happen, Nintendo. Even if it's next year, give us Tomodachi Life. Next up, another one that is pure copium is Rhythm Heaven. There's some stuff with the franchise that make it unlikely it will return, at least in the near future. But once again, even just a port of Rhythm Heaven Fever, or I guess Rhythm Heaven Mega Mix in HD, something Rhythm Heaven would be nice, just to get a pulse on that franchise. I love Rhythm Heaven so much, and I just want to see it get some sort of appreciation on Nintendo's best-selling console ever. And then finally, another remaster or remake, Kid Icarus Uprising HD. This is one that would for sure be for 2025 if it gets announced here. We've heard of rumors of a Bandai Namco 3D action game remaster or something along those lines. I don't know if that would be this. It certainly fits the bill. Kid Icarus Uprising is one of the best 3DS games. It didn't sell all too well. I guess it sold fine for what it is. It sold like 1.5 million copies, I believe. But with the Switch install base, with the fantastic word of mouth around this game, with the 3DS online servers finally being shut down, I think Kid Icarus Uprising, it's a matter of when, not if. I do think this game's going to happen eventually. I just don't know if it'd be now. I don't know if it'd be on Switch 1 or say for Switch 2, you know. We'll have to wait and see, but I do think that game will happen eventually. So that is going to do it for my Nintendo Direct predictions video. Of course, as we get closer, I'm sure things will change, and I might do another one like right when it's announced to give some final thorough thoughts on a lot of these games. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you expect to see in the June Nintendo Direct? Are you expecting some big announcements? Are you expecting it to be a dud of a Nintendo Direct? I would love to get a conversation going down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, discussions, all of that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace.